Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we are revisiting the monored goblins archetype, and our mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to make as many goblin tokens as possible by tapping Krenko Mob Boss. A 4-mana 3/3 taps to make X 1/1 goblin tokens, where X is the number of goblins we already control. So the more we activate Krenko, the more those goblin tokens will keep increasing, and it doesn't take many activations to win the game, especially when we can give Krenko haste in a multitude of ways throughout the deck. And then one of the new additions from Tarkir Dragonstorm at 1 mana is Stadium Headliner, a 1/1 with a Mobilize 1. When it attacks, we get to make a tapped and attacking warrior token that we'll have to sacrifice end of turn. And then it also gives the deck some built-in removal with our creatures, as we can sack the Headliner for 2 mana to deal damage equal to the number of creatures we control to target creature. And this deck naturally wants to go wide with Krenko, so it's not too difficult to enable the Headliner. And then sacrificing it with a Horde Master on board can also provide extra card advantage, not only pumping up our goblins, but whenever Horde Master or another goblin we control dies, we get to exile the top card of our library. If it's a goblin creature card, we can cast it until the end of our next turn. We also have the Firebrand that can immediately sacrifice to deal 1 damage to any target, so that gives us a little bit more removal. And then the Cacophony Scamp, also pretty good at blocking and trading for opposing creatures, especially for pumping it up and increasing its power. And then we also have a small Start Your Engines theme with a Bastronaut, good at enabling our speed thanks to Menace early on, can pump it up, and at max speed we'll have Double Strike. Then at 2 mana we've got the Engineer, another way to give other creatures haste by paying a red mana, and then we can also exhaust to make a 4/4 dragon token as a potential mana sink. Then we've got our Seer Slicer Goblin. We're pretty good at enabling a raid on turn 2 thanks to all our 1-drops, so that's another way of going wide and generating additional goblin tokens. And then one of the most important cards in the deck is the Howl Squad Heavy, another payoff for getting to max speed, but even without max speed it's very good, giving other goblins we control haste, so perfect to set up our turn 4 Krenko, and each turn we get to make a 1/1 goblin token that's going to be forced to attack, so that can also help us go wide, especially when we're pumping up our goblins with either Horde Master or maybe a Patchwork Banner naming goblin. Can then still tap for mana to cast another 1-drop afterwards, makes it easier to maybe cast Krenko on turn 4 and then immediately give it haste with maybe the Draconautics Engineer, or we can activate our Amonkhet Raceway built into the mana base, another Start Your Engines card, so another reward for getting to 4 speed. And then the Bomber, another way to pump up our goblins, and can also give them evasion. For red mana, they'll gain a flying until end of turn. We will have to sacrifice them afterwards, but that's usually worth it if we're getting in for lethal damage. And then we also get to run a few Cavern of Souls to make our goblins uncounterable. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Can start with Headliner and then turn 2 Bastronaut, or the other way around. Bastronaut's a little bit more likely to connect, and then I could also opt for Seer Slicer instead. So we'll start by attacking. Speed up to 2. And then make an extra token. So our opponent with black-green mana has a Virtue for Goblin. So just double 1-drop here. We'll get the Headliners going so we can remove opposing blockers. And Red Knight is a pretty annoying blocker, to be fair. Can still connect with the Bastronaut and play another one. I don't think we bother removing the Dread Knights. So these now both have Double Strike. And a Shieldred is still beatable if we get Krenko going especially. Or we can use a Headliner. Alright, so now I can play a Bomber as well. Howl Squad Heavy can immediately make mana actually, so can I just go off with Krenko? I think so. I guess never mind, the Heavy itself still of course has Summoning Sickness. But yeah, next turn we can maybe go off with Krenko if Heavy survives. That's forced to attack. No one else wants to get in there. Yeah, hopefully they don't remove the heavy. If they do, then drawing a land would still let me double Headliner, which could be decent. Another house squad. Yeah, I guess we'll run it back. They may be running out of their own answers as well. If I play Bomber first, then Heavy is no longer within range of a cut down or another Virtue. So that could have been an option too. And now a Deep Cavern Bat can take Krenko, although Bomber's still fine. And of course the Headliner can remove the Bat to get Krenko back. A last card, another Deep Cavern Bat. So we might still have this. Unless the Preacher draws into another answer. So we draw. Find another heavy. Oh yes. So I can play it. Go to attackers. I'll go full control just so I timed this right. Make some goblins. And go to attackers. Send in the headliners and everyone else. Mobilize. Then make a bunch of mana. Use headliners on Shieldreds. And Deep Cavern Bats. And the remaining mana we can use to pump up the Bastronauts. And then second main I can still play a hasty Krenko. So then unless they have a board wipe, we should be okay. And then we'll immediately tap to make goblin tokens. And then next turn we probably want to use Krenko after we get the extra 1/1s from the house squad. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Bastronauts can start increasing our speed. So we can maybe make mana with a house squad. So then we're just missing Krenko. Opponent on a white enchantment deck. Headliner gives us some removal if we need it. Pairs well with a Horde Master if we sacrifice it. So red-white auras. So they could have a Shard Mage's Rescue, turning this into a 3/3. If I play Horde Master, I still have a fine attack, or I could Headliner threatening the ability. So then they might have to rescue in response. It's not quite as much damage as just playing Horde Master. So I'll start here. Question is, do we want them to cast the Shard Mage's Rescue? Because if we don't, then I could leave the token back. But with Horde Master, if the token dies, it's not a disaster. Opponent takes it. So if they cast a rescue, it maybe implies they have another one in hand. It's going to be a Monstrous Rage end of turn, just for the enchantment roll token. So they're left with +1/+1 and trample and a +1 counter. That's fine. Do they have Sheltered by Ghosts? If they do, that's the card we wanted to avoid. So goodbye Horde Master, or maybe Headliner, since they don't want their Scavenger removed, of course. Because if they don't have anything else with a land, I could pay the wards and destroy the Scavenger. So Headliner exiled. They can attack. So So now we get to keep our heavy token, and there's Krenko. Still want a heavy first, so we can immediately give Krenko haste. So they maybe don't see it coming. Do I need to leave anything back? At 15 we should be safe. So hopefully no second sheltered by ghosts. Ethereal armor, I guess ×2 could be bad, since they also have the enchantment land contributing. So if they have another monstrous rage, they already have the roll token. It would still be 3 additional power from the +1 counter, so it's not quite lethal. So yeah, if they don't have another ethereal armor, then we should be alright. I guess Shard Mage's Rescue is +3 total as well, so either way not lethal. And I could always jump with a goblin token. Right, Bone's attacking anyway. I don't think they're surviving as is, but maybe they didn't have a choice. So that's 13, and then now Krenko should be more than enough. Also drew the Raceway, that's another way to give it haste. If we wanted to maximize our damage, we would wait for the token from Howl Squad Heavy to be generated, and then we activate Krenko, but that probably requires full control just to get 1 extra goblin token. But this is a good strategy for completing your quest, where you need to attack with 15 or more creatures, as you can immediately make those hasty tokens and attack before the opponent gets a chance to concede. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Firebrand's good at enabling Horde Master. Can set up our raid on too, hopefully. And what are we up against? Black-red, maybe Reanimator. Still in favor of Seer Slicer before Horde Master. This will be more impactful when we have more goblins in play, as well as when we have more mana available to play potential goblins from exile. But maybe next turn we can already run it out alongside another Firebrand. If they're a more controlling black-red mid-range deck, they could have some sweepers. And Brotherhood's End comes to mind. At least Horde Master will still give us some other goblins in return. It's going to be a fear of missing out. So we'll see if they discard something big and scary. Atraxa certainly counts. And we drew Krenko. Well, Horde Master still enables reasonable attacks. Although they're probably happy to trade Seer Slicer for Fear. Yeah, could attack all out. Maybe they block a Firebrand. And then I can finish it off with a second Firebrand. Seer Slicer I can maybe play next turn. Yeah, Engineer is a way of giving Krenko haste, but it requires an extra mana, which we may not have. And Carnosaur on Horde Master. So yeah, next turn they could already bring back Atraxa. And Bomber the draw. So maybe still go for Seer Slicer here before it goes away. Can they reanimate Atraxa on 4? Not yet. But they might have a board wipe. We are spared such fate. So now things get interesting. We could commit Krenko, although if I play Engineer, I could maybe activate Krenko right away next turn. So then the play would be to just attack. Can play Raceway to get our speed up. Possible they just remove the Seer Slicer. Then I might be convinced to cast Krenko after all. Better Triumph, discard Volgavoth. I think I do play Krenko, that way next turn I can make the tokens and give them haste with the Engineer to maybe go wide enough to beat one of those huge life-linking flyers. And if they're forced to answer Krenko this turn, the Bomber can still help us cross the finish line. It's gonna be a Liliana, not particularly effective.
A fight? And you think you can win?
Minus sack a token.
I've always hated crowds.
Alright, so I think step 1, play Headliner. Then I can still play Engineer. Activate Krenko. And then now give everyone haste. And that should be more than enough. We'll finish off Liliana. Sweet. I'll do the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Facing red aggro. So I'll start with a Scamp. Opponent's got a Challenger. So I can trade for Challenger. Good way to play Hordemaster first. So we maybe get some extra cards out of it. So I could attack and then sack to destroy the Challenger. Don't hate that. Just a land exiled. Next turn we get to play another Hordemaster plus Headliner. And the shock deals with the Hordemaster. Finding a bomber I can play next turn. Seems fine. Makes it harder for them to remove Krenko at 4 toughness. But they had a lightning strike. Still happy to draw land. Another Krenko. Okay. Hordemaster plus Headliner it is. And now Swiss Spear. So, yeah, they probably have Monstrous Rage here. I guess it could just be a burn spell for Hordemaster if I try and block Hired Claw. So I don't think it's worth it. And yeah, it was a Monstrous Rage. So we're at 5. Still no land. Alright, I guess I can use Headliner as removal. Which can take care of the Hired Claw. Trigger Hordemaster. Exiles the land we needed. I guess we're both struggling to hit our line drops. Swiss Spear attacks. I mean, I got a block since we're dead to a Monstrous Rage otherwise. A Lightning Strike on Hordemaster. So then I can Firebrand their face, since we're not going to take out the Swiss Spear. Another land exiled. And now Firebrand revealed. Engineer. Okay, so the difficult journey towards 4 mana continues. At least if they have a Nemesis here, I could jump with Firebrand, sacrifice it so we don't deal damage to it. But I'm probably dead next turn. Don't think Swiss Spear should have attacked. Still nothing. Yeah, our opponent's probably going to get to 4 mana before we do. Can exhaust. And then any point in attacking. What's my plan? I can jump Nemesis and then they get to take out another 1/1, or I can trade and take 3. Probably dead either way. Challenger activate village. So I can block and trade. So I'm at 2, but their board is also gone. So we'll see what their last card is, as we still can't find a land. I think I attack, and then I can still either pump or, I guess, deal 1 damage with a Headliner. It's gonna be a Swiss Spear. If they attack, I can trade. And they had a monstrous rage, so yeah, we're super dead. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have triple house quad. Yeah, with a 3rd land, those are good. Not the best start, since we can't enable raid on 2. Facing red-white tokens. Maybe should play Headliner first. Although, never mind, with house quad we can still enable raid next turn. Case takes out a Seer Slicer, sadly. But we get to play the house quad. And getting to max speed is going to be quite the payoff, since then we can make mana to empty the rest of our hand. A War Leader's Call, so no great attack at the moment. The lack of red mana could be an issue. So can't threaten to activate the Headliner necessarily. So then we'll just play another house quad. And then I could attack with everyone. Speed up to 3. And now a nesting bot. If they also have Gleeful Demolition, that's gonna hurt. I think they're convoking a Wandering Emperor here. I forget exactly what abilities it has, but it's a big double striking creature at the very least. Possible they also have the Goblin Token Maker, making a pair of goblins. Either way, we want to probably play another house quad. Attack with all the 1/1s. Then we'll get to max speed, and I can cast more things second main. So yeah, if it is Wandering Emperor, they would just block, but yeah, it's a frontline rush instead. That's fine, so we are at max speed already. Doesn't change anything right now. They do get to eat most of my creatures, sadly, as opposed to having the bomber to pump them up. But we'll have it for next turn. Alright, so make mana. And can pretty much empty out my hands. And then have the other house squad ready to go, which can use Headliner or Bastronaut. And then Bastronaut threatens a ton of damage by itself, but we can also fly our team with a bomber. A Warden's acceptable. Anything else? Opponent is attacking. So they could have another frontline rush to pump the unblocked token. But yeah, opponent scoops it up, so could probably figure out a block here, especially with our double striker. And then next turn with both flying and double strike, we can probably win the game with a single attacker. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Facing red-white aggro. May as well attack since we're not blocking. Try and enable a raid next turn. That's not gonna happen now. Could still Slicer over Hordemaster. Maybe they leave back blockers thinking it's just a 2-1. They've got the Helix. Hordemaster pumping Krenko up to a 4-4 also means burn spells can't take it out as easily. And now Firebrand can get our speed up to 2 right away. So maybe Raceway can give Krenko haste. Still taking the damage. Hordemaster eats a lightning strike. So definitely Boros burn here. Engineer's a good draw. So can go Scamp, Engineer, Haste. And then next turn I can get my speed up with a Firebrand to give Krenko haste with a Raceway. Could have also opted to proliferate a +1 counter actually, would have been reasonable. Still at 11, and we're about to have a hasty Krenko, so we can just attack all out now. Play Krenko. And immediately activate. Alright, mission accomplished. We made 3 goblin tokens. Does Krenko live? Still gonna take it here if they have. Hidatsu Goose, second right, we just lose, but that would be pretty funny to see. It's just gonna be another burn spell on Krenko. Nothing new here. Alright, Bastronaut with full speed and haste is pretty nice. So can cast that one. And I guess a hasty Seer Slicer is also fine. As opposed to pumping the Bastronauts. Yeah, that seems fine. Could leave a Firebrand back as an extra blocker. How do we die here? End of turn, burn for 3. I guess Boros Charm's also in the format. So then I would be at 5. And then I guess 2 more burn spells could do it, regardless of blockers. Or Suspir can maybe trample over a token if they're playing Monstrous Rage. I don't think we leave too much back. We'll still get a token with a Seer Slicer. How much damage is this? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can probably afford to leave a Firebrand back. No end of turn burn spell. So then we should be in reasonable shape. Ooh, lockdown. That was certainly unexpected. Okay, so Firebrand their face. Would have been better off pumping the Bastronauts as opposed to playing an extra Seer Slicer out. And of course sacking Scamp could have dealt one more. But yeah, we should be alright with Howl Squad and Haste. The Raceway, of course, a great card to have in this spot. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand, likely to get land 3. And now Krenko is a nice pickup. So against a red, a green. Maybe start with the Headliner. Gets in for 2 damage next turn. And a Questing Druid, just cast. Alright, don't mind seeing that. Can just take it out with a Firebrand. Also fine trading for the Headliner, to be fair. But I can maybe keep Headliner for something bigger. Alright, just need lands now. Challenger is next. So blocking is unlikely to work out for me if they have anything to trigger prowess. Land is good. So Howl Squad's next. They could have a Witchstalker Frenzy to punish me for attacking with multiple creatures. But if they have it, so be it. Speed up to 2. And now we're going nice and wide for Headliner to be used as removal as well. Another Questing Druid just cast. So that implies that they have a red spell they want to cast here. Probably Monstrous Rage. Yep. And the Hearth Elemental is not going to be used. Alright, I can play Hasty Krenko, that's the dream. So let me do this properly. Full control. Go to attackers, make a token. After making the token, but before declaring attackers. I can't even view battlefield. So yeah, after making our Howl Squad token, but before declaring attackers, activate Krenko. So we get 1 extra token and everyone can attack here. And then, yeah, we should be in pretty good shape. Alright, and that'll do it. So we get to see this updated version of mono-red goblins in action. It's still tricky to get Krenko going, but at least you've got more ways to give it haste than ever before, so it's still potentially achievable. And then in certain matchups, it's often game-winning as well, making a whole army of tokens, especially if they have haste as well. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.